Hey, yo, everyone, Andrew here, bringing you another video review. You know what today is? Today is Wednesday. The best day of the week. You know why? Because it is comic book day. And that means we talk about my comic list for the week. So this is the last week of Zero Month, and it is a really big week for me. I got every issue except for Fury of Firestorm. And I also got a mini, so we are going to be talking about that stuff. From now on, I think I'm going to just save the Before Watchmen for later, because money. I'm still going to be picking them up, I'm just keeping them in my box for now. So, without any further ado, let's just jump into this week of Zero issues, and we might as well start where we always start, with a little bit of Batman in our life. And we'll start with Batman, The Dark Knight, issue 0. Now, all the Bruce Wayne focused Batman titles are dealing with him before he becomes Batman, and it's not necessarily origin for him because that's year one. Year one is how he becomes Batman. But these stories are more or less dealing with things that help create the Batman mythos, whether it be his training, his methodology, his psychology, or his ethics. It's something that is important to the Batman. And what happens in Batman the Dark Knight? Well, Batman Dark Knight really deals with Joe Chill. Batman looking for Joe Chill and trying to hunt him down. Without giving too much away, Batman wants to take out Joe Chill because, well, he thinks that there was some kind of conspiracy behind his father's murder. That Joe Chill was a hired assassin or part of the Court of Owls or something along that lines. However, he comes to realize that Joe Chill is not. Actually, his family's murder wasn't a big conspiracy or because of his father's enemies. It's because it's just a random mugging that went wrong. And Batman has to deal with it. So on to the good, the bad, and whether or not you should get it. Good, the art is good. The internal dialogue is nice. And I like the fact that they actually deal with Joe Chill in this. And it's an important lesson for Batman is that crime is everywhere. Sometimes there's no method to it. Sometimes it just happens. It's not good, but that's what the Batman's there for. The Batman is there to stop crime. In all its forms, whether it's planned or not. Bad. Another good. Another good is what I liked is we get to see a lot of Bruce Wayne training here, but we see it in a logical sense. What people don't realize is Bruce went through high school, or finishing school, I believe it's called. I could be wrong on the terminologies, but Bruce goes through formal schooling, and while he does that, it's not like his training starts when he goes abroad. Bruce was already probably had 3 black belts before he started training abroad. And you see him fencing and boxing, and you see him learning science and detective work. And you see him doing as much studying as he can before he actually leaves. Bruce was always already a smart, intellectual individual and very well trained fighter beforehand. Now that when he leaves and he goes out on his journey to learn from the best of the best, he was already trained. It's not like he's going in there stupid. Bad. I can't think of any. This was a pretty well handled issue, and I will give it a 4.5 out of 5. On to another Batman issue, and that is Batman Incorporated, which kind of is in continuity and not in continuity. Okay, it is in continuity. Batman Incorporated is in continuity. It's just Grant Morrison says, screw it, I'm going to do what I want. Hey, I'm Grant Morrison. I want to put Batwoman in my comic, but the Golden Age Batwoman, not the current Batwoman. But Grant, the Golden Age Batwoman doesn't exist. Well, screw it. I'm Grant Morrison. Hey, don't try to defend it. He does do that. Batman Incorporated issue 0 is basically dealing with Batman grabbing everyone in the Batman Inc. and bringing the team together. So, that's the basic story. I'm not going to reveal anything else because that's it. On to the good, the bad, and whether or not you should get it. I know, it sounds... I'll explain why I gave you such a brief review on that. Good. The one thing good about this is, One is the dialogue's actually pretty good, which is something that Grant Morrison doesn't necessarily always do well. And it's actually about Batman Inc. It's not about Batman and Damian taking on Talia al Ghul. It's about these individuals, these heroes Batman has working with him. It's Batman Inc. Bad. There's no plot to this. It's just him going around picking up Batman Inc. people. There's no common goal or enemy. It's just clippets of like side stories sewed together. It's just there. See, the important thing about an origin story is not only giving an origin, but also giving a story. If you give an origin, that's fine, but give something more, something for us to dig our teeth into, and that just didn't happen here. That and nothing against the artist, but I just didn't care for the art. It didn't work well for what this story was. On a whole, whether or not you should get it, actually, I was kind of disappointed by this issue. 2 out of 5. Ooh. On to the new comic this week, and this would be of Talon, part of the Batman family. Well, only in title form. Trust me, Talon's not part of the Batman family. So we have a good friend here, Calvin, and he's going to be our main protagonist star of this comic. And Calvin is an escape artist, which automatically drew me to Calvin because I like escape artists. I like Mr. Miracle. I like Houdini. I just like the concept of being able to get out of anywhere at any time because you're an escape artist. He had a rough childhood. His father locked him in a cage, and he had to learn how to escape from that cage. And he ran, and eventually he made it to Haley's Circus, and he became a escape artist show there. And that's where the court found him. The court wanted to bring him in and turn him into a Talon, and they kind of told him, well, you'd be doing the good for this world. You know, there's evil out there, and you'd be stopping the evil. But Calvin never feels quite right with being a Talon, and eventually, after kind of almost a born identity kind of mission, he goes to kill someone, and it's not exactly what he thinks, and because of which he decides no longer to be a Talon. Here's the problem. You just don't leave the Court of Owls. They hunt you down, and they will kill you. And even after you're dead, they can resurrect you, so you're stuck with them for life. So the basis of this comic is Talon is on the run from the Court of Owls. Good, bad, whether or not you should get it. Good. Well, first and foremost, I want to give credit to James Tyon. If I'm pronouncing that incorrect, I am sorry. He is writing and scripting this, but he's also scripting it with Scott Snyder. So Scott Snyder is helping with the script, but he's doing the writing of it, and he did the backups for Batman for the past few issues dealing with Pennyworth, Alfred Pennyworth's father and such. So um, we're going to talk a little bit more about him as the writer for this than Scott Snyder. Scott Snyder obviously contributed, but I want to focus more on this guy as a writer because he's the one that's bringing the characters to life. First and foremost is I'm automatically attracted to the character of Calvin, of Talon. He has an interesting backstory, a good look to him. At first I thought the costume looked silly, and this is not the best drawing of the costume. Not best drawing, but the best interpretation of the costume. But his costume actually looks pretty good. The concept of the story is very nicely handled. And what I liked about this issue is in these 22 pages worth of comics, I feel as though I know this character better than I know characters I've been reading for years. Better than I know Superboy. So they did a good job at making this character likable and also someone that grows on us. He's a bit edgier, but he's not without his good side. There's one thing you have to realize. Yes, he's done bad things, but this guy is a good person. He falls under what would be called chaotic neutral, bordering on chaotic good. But he's not a bad fellow. He's obviously looking out for himself, but he does have a heart underneath, and that's important too. So the story was good. The character is good, and the art actually works well for what the story is too. So it has a lot of good going for it. Bad? None. This was a great introductory issue, and I give credit to the team, the artists, the writers, the scripters. 5 out of 5. Really nicely done. Might as well go for a little Superman, shall we? With Superman issue number 0. Oh, and I will be picking up Talon continuously. I have subscribed to it. One, because it's a Batman book, and I always pick up every Batman book, and two, because, well, it's Talon, so he's kind of cool. So, Superman, issue 0. I almost said Superboy, but Superman, issue 0. So, this is probably the comic that I was looking forward to the least this go around this week. Not because I have any disdain towards Superman. I love Superman. But it's because we already have Superman's origin, so it's going to be something to do with Krypton. There is no doubt about that. And guess what it is? It's something to do about Krypton. So, whether or not it works or succeeds, you'll just have to see. But basically, what Scott Lobdell does is he has Superman narrate, and he basically shows what happens to Jor-El in the final months of Krypton. From his wife getting pregnant, to him finding out about Krypton's instability, to the science police wanting to take him out. I forget if they're called science police, but the basically certain Kryptonian individuals want to take him out. We also get the first usage, not seeing, but the usage of the Phantom Zone in the New 52. And there's also a twist at the end involving Superman himself, which seems to be connected with many of the Superman Zero issues and people being there on Krypton. Good, bad, whether or not you should get it. Good, despite the fact that it's a Krypton story, and what do we really need to know about Krypton other than it blows up? It's like, let's do an origin story for Thomas and Martha Wayne. Why? They get killed. That's all you need to know about them. Krypton gets blown up. That's really all you need to know about them. But despite that fact, Scott Lobdell actually weaves a pretty interesting story. He gives us a interesting character with Jor-El. He's fun, very detached. He feels almost kind of Reed Richards-ish, where he loves his wife, but he's very committed to his work, and his work is something that comes very first. But he's still, he's a loving, caring person to his family. Kind of has his head in the air at all times. So they give us a very good character in Jor-El. And, Lara was pretty good too. Superman's mom. The twist at the end was very nicely done. And Kenneth Rocaford's art is always appreciated. I like his art. I liked him on Red Hood and the Outlaws. And I like him on Superman. So that's good. Bad, I can't say there's too much bad about it, but for a zero issue, it didn't do anything to wow me. What I do like, though, kind of as an overview, and I'm going to give this a 3 out of 5. What I do like as an overview is that there is something connecting this comic to the Superboy and Supergirl comic, and you can see that Scott Lobdell is weaving his crossover with the Hell on Earth crossover, which I think is going to involve our good friends, the Kryptonians, somehow being involved or going to Krypton, and you'll see when you read this issue. It's a good issue, and I think it's, again, good things to come for Superman, because this issue, despite the fact that I gave it a 3, has been entirely a better issue than what we've been getting for Superman as of recently. The big reason why I gave it a 3 is just because it's Krypton blowing up. I know what happens. It's no big deal. Although you can say this about any origin story because you know what happens to these characters anyways. But it's just the fact that I can't commit myself to Jor-El because Jor-El is just going to die. But on a whole, it was a good issue. 3 out of 5. Is it necessary? No, but I would still get it. Red Lanterns, issue number 0. So Red Lanterns are kind of my guilty pleasure in the New 52. I said this multiple times. It may not necessarily be the best comic, but I really do enjoy it. One, because I like the Red Lanterns, and two, because it's actually not as bad as I think a lot of people paint it out to be. Did it have a rocky start? Yeah, it did. But, it's fine. Rocky starts happen. On a whole, though, Red Lanterns have been fun and enjoyable. The question is what can you really do with Red Lanterns as an origin story when we already know about the Red Lantern's origin? This goes into really the New 52 Atrocitus' origin. It's very similar to that before the New 52. The Manhunters killed his race. Abin banished him to the Hell Planet. He learns how to use dark magic or blood magic and eventually becomes a Red Lantern. It does omit his stint being captured by Abin and being the cause of Abin crashing. believe that's what happened in Secret Origins. I'm gonna have to double check. But besides that, it's relatively the same origin that we got beforehand. In saying that, it's a very comfortable and safe origin. What I do like about this origin, is that it takes its time to explain the blood magic that, and I guess I'm going into goods. One is it explains the blood magic. I always found it funny that on Earth there is magic, but no other planet there is magic. I like the fact that this is kind of a cosmic book, but magic is still present. Maybe not to the nth degree, but it's still present because it makes sense. Why isn't magic on other planets? Why didn't Krypton have magic? Did Krypton have magic? It's just an interesting concept that goes with the comic itself. I don't know if Marvel does anything like that. Is the Phoenix Force magic? No, Phoenix Force is just a force. But the thing is magic in other worlds should be possible. So I did like that. And another thing is that they did a very good job at fleshing out Atrocitus as a character, because you guys gotta understand, despite his ugly mug, Atrocitus was actually a loving and caring husband and father. He was a scientist, and he was very much kind of a pacifist. So how do we go from, like, basically hippie Atrocitus to raging motorboat of death? Yes, motorboat of death. You guys also understand this. Atrocitus lives for eons. He's pretty much immortal. So he's been around from the inception of the Manhunters to right now. That's eons of living. And over the years, he says, and you'll see in this comic, certain aspects of him die. He says, this is the day that empathy has died in my heart. This is the day that compassion has died. This is the day that love has died. This is the day that pity has died. And slowly throughout these years, he dies as a character inside, and we get a new character. By the end of the comic, it says, I'm going to rename myself Atrocitus, because his name is something else. It's like Atraro or something like that. Because I am no longer the man that I was. I'm a new creature. This is who I am. So it does a good job with that. Bad, kind of like the Superman book. It just doesn't do anything exciting. It's good. It's well handled. It's well paced, and it does flesh out the character. I just would have liked to see something a little bit more, something to make it stand out. Because in the end of the day, it's just an origin story right now. The one thing about the origin stories that have been doing so well, in my mind, is like Red Hood and the Outlaws, has been giving us a little bit more to work with, something new that hasn't been introduced before the New 52. Maybe some flavor that makes it stand out a little bit more, and that's what needs to be delivered in this book. But Red Hood and the Outlaws, I will give it 3 out of 5. It was enjoyable, and I'm going to continue picking up, not Red Hood. Did I say Red Hood? Red Lanterns. Red Lanterns. He is not an outlaw. Well, actually, Atrocitus is an outlaw, but you know what I mean. Red Lanterns, I give it 3 out of 5. On to All-Star Western issue 0, and it is exactly what you think. It is the origin of Jonah Hex, taking aspects from all the different origins, from him having a mother that leaves him, his father abuses him and is a drunkard, to him joining the Confederacy, to him being adopted and brought in by Native Americans and taught by them how to fight, to being betrayed by Native Americans, and to how he got his scar on his face. And there's 2 reasons why. One is obviously the tomahawk, which we all know, but there's other stuff too that gets involved. And it basically paints a picture of who Jonah Hex is. Good is a solid origin. It gives us what we need about Jonah Hex. If anyone was to get into All-Star Western, I would give them this, and they'd be like, holy shit, I know everything I need to know about All-Star Western. Which I think handles itself very nicely. In addition to this, I did like the pacing of the story. It was kind of a narration of Jonah while he was drunk, telling a story to Arkham and to Lulu Black. And it does, in a certain way, set up the next story arc. Bad? Nothing really. Similar to Red Lanterns and Superman, it didn't do anything New 52 to shock me, but I think the differences between Red Lanterns and Superman is it did a better job at telling an origin. 4 out of 5. This was a fun comic. You know what? 4.5 out of 5. It was a really fun comic. All-Star Western continues to be great. Voodoo issue 0. I won't spend too much time on Voodoo issue 0 because Similar to, well, no, not similar to. Um, Maybe I was a little hasty to say what I was going to say, so I'm going to retract that statement before I even send it out. Voodoo Issue Zero is exactly what you think it is. It's telling you how Priscilla got captured, what experiments were done on her, and how she eventually got into the custody of the Black Races. Nothing more, nothing less. And I'm not even going to bother good and bad about this because, I mean, I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5. But the thing is about this is exactly what we would expect. We kind of already painted a picture of how voodoo becomes, well, voodoo, or how Priscilla gets into the predicament that she does. I think the shining moment is this at the end is when she meets up with Grifter, and shit is gonna go down now in Grifter. It was a very well handled origin. Didn't wow me as much as the series did, but I will give this a 3 out of 5. I've been giving a lot of threes this week, but 3 out of 5. Voodoo was pretty good. Moving on to the mini this week, and that would be Phantom Lady and Doll Man. So last we left off on Phantom Lady, she basically her family was destroyed by this crime family. She's doing everything she can to get back at them, and actually the first issue doesn't really deal with her being Phantom Lady that much. It's more or less her investigating and trying to take out these bad guys. However, things go awry and she is captured. This issue, it's her dealing with being captured and her eventually getting her powers and giving us a more of an explanation of her powers and abilities, along with Dollman's powers and abilities. Good, bad, whether or not you should get it. And you guys gotta remember this is a 4-issue miniseries. I had to double check, but it is a 4-issue miniseries. Good. Well, I do like Phantom Lady as a character. She almost doesn't feel like a superhero. And I mean that in the best way possible. She feels very realistic. She feels like she would do something that any normal person would do. She's going to the ends of the earth to get back at this crime family, which really is not a supervillain family. This is kind of more Batman-ish with his enemies being, well, kind of realistic. It almost feels a little out of place when she gets her powers, but not her powers, but the suit that gives her powers. But when she does, it goes to the other good. They do a very good job at defining her powers. In the first issue, they did a fairly decent job, but in this issue, they do a much better job at defining her powers, along with Dollman's powers. And I do like her powers quite a bit. She's a relatable and enjoyable character with some fun powers. I almost said relatable powers because all of us can project black energy, dark matter, or whatever it's called. But the characters handled well, and the story is handled well. This bad guy is such a freaking jerk, but the thing about him is that so he's almost kind of likable in like a WWE heel sense. You pay the money to see this guy get beat, and they do a very good job at making the guy despicable. This is done by Justin Gray and Jimmy Palmiotti, who also do All Star Western, and it you can really see the superb writing in this. This is a great mini. 4 out of 5. I really did enjoy this. The one thing I hope is that I think it's wise that they're giving Phantom Lady a mini because I don't think she's strong enough to have her own ongoing series. But I would love to see her team up in a team up book because I think she would be good in a team up book. But yeah, 4 out of 5. I Vampire issue number 0. So, this is really Andrew Bennett becoming a vampire. The tragedy of him becoming a vampire. Who sired him and made him a vampire? Well, actually, we kind of know that. I think it was revealed. It is Kane. Kane sires him, but how he becomes a vampire and what he does right after he becomes a vampire. And that is the basic gist of this story. It is an origin for Andrew Bennett. Who he was before he got sired too is important too. Good, bad, whether or not you should get it. Good is the dialogue between Kane and Andrew Bennett was handled very nicely. I did like that. I liked his reaction after he became a vampire because he's going around and biting and eating everything from rats to humans. He doesn't even know better yet. He's like, "What the hell am I doing? I don't mean to do this. I'm just doing it." That shows that sometimes there's more of an impulse when you're a vampire rather than control, at least at first. The art was good, and I've enjoyed the art throughout iVampire because, yes, it may not be the most stylized art, but it does a very good job at giving us that dark feel to it. In addition to that, it has a sad ending. Well, of course, it has a freaking sad ending. He becomes a vampire, but it has a sadder ending in the fact that he writes a letter to Mary, who eventually becomes Mary, Queen of the Blood, and it's pretty sad. Bad is that I would have liked to see a little bit more of Mary in this because I like her as a character. They only show her at the very end. But hey, what you gonna do? Shit happens. On a whole, I'm gonna give this a 4.5 out of 5. I did enjoy it quite a bit. And iVampire has continued to be a great series, to say the least. So moving on, we have Justice League Dark issue number 0. I almost said 5 for some reason. So the funny thing about this is all about John Constantine and Zatanna, and the funny thing about Justice League Dark is it's been exposing me to Constantine. I never read Hellblazer before. The most exposure I had to Constantine before this was the horrible movie. I don't know what it is, but it's something about Constantine I just didn't care about. Maybe because there's someone I knew that was a big fan of Constantine. They always built him out to be this fantastic, amazing character, and I didn't like that person. That's a horrible thing to say, but hey, I'm gonna be honest. But Constantine has slowly grown on me so much, and I really do enjoy him as a character now. So, for Justice League Dark Issue 0, it gives us a very good origin and identity for Constantine. It shows us how he gets into magic, why he comes to the States, his relationships to Zatanna, and where he gets his trench coat, because the trench coat is important, people. The trench coat is essential. I'm not even kidding. It's actually kind of cool they give him an origin for his trench coat. The other thing about this that, well, I guess I go into the good, the bad, whether or not I should get it. The writing was handled very nicely. I think it's a good introduction for people if they never knew anything about John Constantine beforehand. But I think another thing about this I like, and I like about Justice League Dark, is it gives us a good understanding of magic in the DC universe and how it works, how there's almost like an underground world of magic, which is actually quite interesting. Bad, none. None at all. 5 out of 5. Justice League Dark, issue 0. Spectacular. On to Teen Titans issue number 0. So this really should be Tim Drake issue number 0 because it's Tim Drake's story. But to be fair, Teen Titans should really be called Red Robin featuring the Teen Titans because it's really more or less Tim's comic. And I will discuss the issue of, no pun intended, the issue of him not being Robin anymore because what is basically revealed in this issue and was revealed in interviews beforehand is that Tim Drake was never Robin. He became right away to become Red Robin. And I will deal with that at the end of this, after I give my review of this story. And then I will go from there and just go on to the next stories, because I think I have an interesting opinion on this fact. So we get to see the origin of Tim. We get to see him being this Olympian level athlete, this incredible child prodigy, this amazing computer hacker, and he's trying to help out Batman because he, again, like in the original A Lonely Place of Dying story, is that he knows Batman has been a little trippy and loopy since the death of Jason Todd. So he wants to help Batman. And in doing so, I mean, he's incredibly smart. He tracks down Batman. He knows Batman's identity, but he's still a kid, and he still makes mistakes, particularly getting his hands dirty with the Cobblepots. Or Cobblepot. There's only one Oswald Cobblepot. And it puts his family at risk. So eventually, towards the end of the comic, he becomes Red Robin. And while he's in the cave, Batman kind of says to him, well, welcome aboard, Robin. He says, no, to honor Jason, I'm not going to take up the name Robin. I'm going to go by Red Robin. Yum. Everyone says that whenever I talk about Red Robin, but he basically does that. And his original Red Robin costume is his 1 year later red costume that he wore after Superboy passed away. But yeah, that's the basic gist of the story. Good, bad, whether or not you should get it. good is I think they portrayed Tim very nicely here. They portray him as like a child prodigy and as smart as he should be portrayed. I like the fact that they wrote off Tim's parents in an interesting and fun way. Tim's parents are actually still alive, but they're not in the picture. Why? Gonna have to read and see. And I think they really hammered home, and I'm saying they, it's Scott Bladell. I think they really hammered home the fact that Tim is different from all the other Robins because he has a family. He has parents that loves him. Batman makes that fact. There's one thing that stands between Tim and the rest of us, between me, Dick, and Jason. It's that Tim has a family. And they really hammer that home for the reader. Bad, we see almost little to no time of him being Red Robin. It would have nice to see him in the actual costume other than just a picture that's told. But besides that, on a whole, I'm going to give this a 5 out of 5. This was a very well handled issue. And a very enjoyable issue. Now, when it comes down to the fact of Tim not being Robin anymore, as with a lot of people, I was upset when I heard about this. This is Tim Drake. He is technically considered one of the best Robins, and you're taking away that title from him. But then I stopped and I thought, and I continued to thought or think, not thought. And I've come to this conclusion that I've kind of flirted and played around with the idea of him not being Robin. If it, I mean, it's going to be a definite, but I kind of thought about it for a while, and I actually am for it. Let me explain why. The two people that I think should always be Robin are Dick and Jason because they are is essential. You need Dick to be the first Robin, and you need Jason to be the Robin that died. It's important, unavoidable, without a doubt. But you don't need anyone else to necessarily be Robin, and this is the thing. Tim Drake has evolved as a character so much that being a Robin for everyone that's ever been a Robin, it's a stepping stone. Is that stepping stone to the next level? For Dick, it was a stepping stone to Nightwing. For Jason, it was a stepping stone to Red Hood. I mean, he died, but it was a stepping stone to Red Hood. And for Tim, it's a stepping stone to Red Robin. It's not necessary for him to be Robin because he's Red Robin. He is his own character now, and I'm okay with that. I've come to terms with that. You know, his adventures as Robin still remain in continuity, just as Red Robin. So the question is this: he's always had the Tim Drake costume. He's had the Tim Drake adventures as Robin. He just wasn't named Robin. The question is this: is what's in the name? All the stuff is pretty much canon. It's just handled with a different name. And in that, we still get the fantastic character Tim Drake. And despite how mediocre I think Teen Titans has been over the New 52, Tim Drake has been portrayed as a freaking badass. He's super smart, super athletic, super everything. He can do almost anything. So I think Tim Drake has been handled well. So I'm okay with him not being Robin. It's maybe it's because of the fact that although I'm a huge Tim Drake fan, he's not my favorite Robin. I know I'm in the minority. My favorite Robin is Dick, and then Jason, and then Damian. But I don't think it's necessary. He is Red Robin. He is who he is. He doesn't need to be Robin beforehand. The only people that need to be Robin is Dick and Jason, because again, Dick has to be the first Robin. That goes without saying. And Jason has to be the Robin that dies. Anything else afterwards, Damian, Stephanie, Tim, don't need to be Robin to be who they are. So yeah, moving on. Hawkman, issue number 0. Savage Hawkman was actually one of the 0 issues that I was looking forward to the most, because I wanted to see if they were going with the Thanagarian origin or the Pharaonic origin. And I'll give my opinions on that such, depending on which origin they give. That made no sense. Let's just get into the review. They do go full-fledged with Thanagarian. Hawkman Carter Hall is a Thanagarian. He is from Thanagar. And a plague hits Thanagar, and it basically kills a bunch of people, and kind of not de-evolves, but the wings that the Thanagarians have are kind of stripped away from them. The plague is specific to take away their wings. So now genetically, they will never have wings again, and the offspring will never have wings. It's something that's removed from them. Carter Hall is brought into the royal family, kind of adopted into it almost. It's kind of odd how it's handled. And his brother eventually becomes king, brother, and he falls in love with, I guess, what's technically considered his legal sister, although Thanagarians probably do something different, with Shayera. And Shayera is now blonde in this continuity. Go figure. I like the redhead. Anyways, his brother believes that the key to surviving is getting the nth metal. And in doing so, he puts all his effort into getting the nth metal. Eventually, he finds it. He bonds with it, but it has a negative effect on him. It slowly makes him crazy. The only person that successfully bonds with the nth metal is Carter, or Kitar, depending on how you want to go about it. And here's the thing, is when it bonds with him, he gets the wings back. So, um, that's the basic gist of the story. I'm gonna hold on one moment. I just need to handle something. Sorry about that. My alarm was going off on my phone, so I just wanted to take care of it. And it was annoying me because it was vibrating, and it just was annoying. So that is the basic gist of the story. Onto the good, the bad, and whether or not you should get it. And I'm gonna take this from a very unbiased approach because uh, whether it's the pharaonic origin or whether it's the Thanagarian origin, I'm going to try to give it the best review I can based on those origin. Good is, going at first I wasn't too impressed by this, but now looking back on it, I think they did a very, and I can't believe I'm saying this because it's Rob Liefeld, but I think he does a very good job at painting a picture of what Thanagar was. Thanagar was the pinnacle of aliens. The Kryptons, Kryptonians, Thanagarians, Saurians, Demonites, they were like the bee's knees when it came down to being aliens. They could deal with each other. And I think it was actually really cool to paint Thanagar in that light. The story was well handled. How the nth metal came to be, how they found the nth metal, and the decline of the royal family, and of course, what event led Kitar or Carter Hall to Earth. Bad. There's only one bad about this that I don't necessarily agree with is Shire and how she's handled. Not necessarily that she's kind of vengeful towards um, Carter Hall, but because one, well, first of all, she's not blonde. Shire Hall is a redhead. Let's get that straight. Number two is technically Carter Hall is brought into that family, adopted or otherwise. He's legally bound as that family. Legally, he's dating his sister. That is weird. I don't think it was supposed to be interpreted that way. I think he's more of a brother of war rather than anything else. Kind of like how Worf always calls everyone his brother. Brother. Or Hogan calls everyone his brother. But it just read a little weird. Besides that, though, in retrospect, looking back on it, Hawkman was actually a decent issue. Besides that stumble here and there, I'll give it a 3.5 out of 5. I'm curious to see who will jump on to Hawkman now Rob Liefeld is leaving DC Comics. So, last two issues of the week. Flash issue number 0. This is Barry Allen's origin to Flash. Him getting sprayed with the chemicals and the lightning bolt hit him. And the funny thing is, he spends like a few weeks in the hospital afterwards, which makes sense. You get hit by lightning, you could possibly die. Um, it gives about his mother's murder, how his father's accused, him trying to always solve the murder, and him eventually coming to terms with the fact that he'll keep looking, but he doesn't need to solve the murder. What he needs to do is help people. Very standard status quo comic book telling. What it does do very well, other than paint us a picture of Barry's origin, is that it does a very good job at invoking emotion in the individual. When even the small things, people. When Barry's mother is interacting with him as a little kid and just being a mother, it's very touching stuff. When he walks in and he sees her dead, bleeding, on the ground, it's sad stuff. What Flash issue 0 does a very good job of is it invokes that emotion. And it also gives a solid origin for Barry Allen in New 52, which a character that's been riddled with various different continuity twists and turns in previous years. It's nice to have something solid for the character. Bad, none, 5 out of 5. Get it. Flash has been a fantastic series. And last but certainly not least, our good friend Aquaman, issue number 0. So, very much like Flash, this gives us an origin of Aquaman. This starts with the death of his father and him saying, "You're Atlantean, go find your mother, and join your people." And basically, Aquaman tries to do so. Along the way, he finds one of the loyal servants to his mother, and is a recurring Aquaman character, but I can't pronounce his name for the life of me. Volcro or something like that, or pardon me if I say it wrong, but and he gets basically the origin of what happened to his mother, how his brother came to be born, and how he has the rightful place to the throne of Atlantis. So that's the basic gist. Is he's going back to Atlantis, and we know Ocean Master is going to be showing up soon because we're having that Justice League crossover. So it's nice to kind of give it that bit of origin of Ocean Master, and also know those jewelry and necklaces that Aquaman wears in Justice League issue number 1 through 5. We find out what those are and how important they are, and blah blah blah. Good, bad, whether or not you should get it. Good, it gives us a solid origin. It tells us what we need to know about now, about then, and about the future. It's it does lack the emotion that I think Flash had, but it still gives emotion for the character. It gives kind of motivation for the character. His father died. He's trying to tell his mother how much his father loved her, and so on and so forth. And it's a very classic Aquaman story in that it's very safe in that. But it kind of takes all the elements of Aquaman, cleans it off, and tapes it together very nicely. Bad is, I think, the only thing that this does bad, and the only thing, if anything, is it just, like I said, doesn't invoke any emotion. It gives us a very status quo Aquaman origin, which is very appreciated, but I would have liked it to expand a little bit more. This needs another issue for it to be great. Um, it would have been nice to see Mira also get introduced, because apparently in this universe, she wasn't from another dimension, but from an Atlantean penal colony. So, kind of interesting. But on a whole, a 4.5 out of 5. Aquaman was enjoyable. Very enjoyable. So, those are my comics for this week. A lot of comics. Which one is my Andrew Carter pick of the week? I don't know. I haven't even decided that myself. We'll have to figure that out tomorrow together, will we? But yes, there we go. Going to end this review here. This is Andrew saying peace out for now.